Welcome to our weekly book club episode of Homeschool Moms Unfiltered. I am your host, Megan, and my amazing co-host is...
Hey, I'm Amanda.
Hello. And yes, we host a book club podcast. We read the books and show up here every Thursday to discuss them. You're welcome to read along with us, but you certainly don't have to.
Yeah, right. We are not the podcast police, okay? One thing we are pretty strict about around here, though, is where we draw the line on agreeing to disagree with others. So Megan and I, we homeschool quite differently. We parent differently. We enjoy different book genres. And truly, like, so much more. We're like the odd couple of opposites attract, right? So we truly do rock at this whole agreeing to disagree.
Yeah, we sure do. But we do not agree to disagree when it comes to human rights. And if you're a secular progressive homeschooler, you probably know how tough it is to find your people. So we start each episode with a little, here's who we are type of statement. It's like putting out a bat signal to find like-minded homeschoolers. So with that said, we proudly affirm that abortion is healthcare. Due process is the law of the land for good reason. Black lives matter, trans lives matter, and a dude who has a list of convictions the length of a CVS receipt doesn't get to proclaim himself the arbiter of law. Okay, glad I got that off my chest.
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, it's that thing. It's almost like a bit of therapy in these tough times to like be able to say it out loud, right? Okay, so anyway, let's talk about book club. We are a secular podcast, but our current book club theme does deal with religion, okay? But stick with us. It's from an entirely secular world viewpoint. In fact, these books have been endorsed by atheism societies. They're often brought up in secular progressive groups, which is why we're here reviewing them. And they definitely don't try to sneak attack you with like the gospel or the Book of Mormon or anything like that.
Exactly. So we've been reading a trilogy of books by Chuck Harrison and David McAfee. McAfee? I don't know. This is the end of the series. I still don't know.
Don't take our inability to say names as anything other than chronic inability to figure out people's names, okay?
Exactly. I have a book club that I teach on Fridays. Amanda's kiddo is in it. And there's another new kid that's in there, but most of the kids are regulars. And I said to the one kid I go, who's new, I said, one thing you will learn about me, I go, we could be in like week 10 of a book and I still won't know the main character's name. So I'm like, I'm just putting it out there. I've read the book. I swear I know the content. I just can't remember the person's name. And she cracked up. She was like, don't worry, I never do either. I'm like, thank you. So I'm like, all right, put that out there. So we started with the belief book, then we read the Book of Gods, and now we're on to the Book of Religions. These books are intended for kiddos approximately between the ages of 8 and 12, but we've talked about the fact that you could certainly introduce them younger with some supporting conversation. And if you wanted to build them out into a full semester course for transcripts for older kids, going down different rabbit hole topics that are presented in there in the books, you could totally do that and have a really, really deep and engaged learning experience.
Yeah, for sure.
So I did think it was funny. I was doing some work this week and I've talked before about the fact that I need background noise while I work. I need something light that I don't really have to pay too much attention to. And so I had just randomly started watching this TV show, The Good Place on Netflix. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't actually seen it. I know of it. I went to a pop-up thing during Comic-Con. So I know of it, but I've never watched an episode.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only in season 2, but it's hilarious. So it's this quirky comedy about the afterlife, but there's all this exploration in there of ethics and morality and what does it mean to be a good person. And the characters wrestle with moral dilemmas, like, do you kill one person to save 5, that kind of thing. And they change up the scenarios on that and keep running through the scenarios and whatnot. And basically you're trying to figure out how to become better people without relying on divine judgment or fear of eternal punishment. So I just thought it was such an ironic pick. I will say I didn't really know what it was about. I just know I hear on Instagram sometimes the audio, the Kirsten Bell audio that's like, this is the bad place. This is the bad place. And it's referring right now to the United States and what a dumpster fire we are. So that was really the only insight I had to the TV show was that that she says this and people reuse the audio. So it was a very ironically timed book. I'd totally recommend it. as a companion for these books, especially if your kids are a little bit on the older or more mature side. I will say it's overall pretty PG. There's a reference to cocaine in there that's pretty innocuous. And the same person also references masturbation. But other than that, pretty innocuous, pretty good time.
Nice. Nice. All right. So as Megan mentioned, this is our final week of this trilogy. So we did the first half of the third book last week, and we're doing the final part now. And we're excited to see what's in store, right? The conversation is always good. But before we dive in, we do want to remind you that come fall, starting in September, our book club is moving to our Patreon. And really, we're super excited about this. It's going to be a little bit of a change, but the two of us, we originally met in a book club pretty similar to what we're hoping to foster and cultivate over there. And because we have such a great, kind, supportive community over on Patreon, we're super hopeful that this will just give us more opportunities to increase connection among homeschoolers, right? At a time when community care is just so important.
Exactly. So we'll meet on Zoom, which will be super cool. Reading the book will still be optional, just like it is this podcast episodes. That was the number one question.
For us, we had to actually read, which in the book club we met in, I never read. It was so rare for me to actually get around to reading the book. So I'm I have to hold myself accountable and actually do the reading, even though it's moving to Zoom.
We promised to read the book, right? That was one of the first questions that our Patreon peeps asked when we made the announcement. They were like, can we still not read the book? We were like, yes, of course, you can still not read the book. You can show up as the ultimate hot mess express. We do not judge. But either way, we would love to welcome you. Come as you are. So we'll link our Patreon in the show notes, and we'll pop a coupon code in the mix down there as well, that you can join as an all access member, which gives you access to all of our other live meetings that we do throughout the month. We have weekly meetings and a unit study and all kinds of perks that go out to our all access peeps. Or you can just become a bookworm member and come and show up to book club and do your thing and incorporate it as part of your community setup. So either way, you'll have access, which will be great.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so last week we read the first half of the book. This week we're reading the second half. It's a little bit shorter than some of the others, but let's dive in. So we start with special story time on page 35.
Yeah. And last week we talked about the fact that this book has this ongoing activity where the kiddo readers can create their own religion. In some of the other books, the activities were more segmented, where it was kind of a standalone activity that related to something that was just discussed. This activity, I feel like more so than the other books, carries through from the start to the end.
Yeah.
And so we talked about that in last week's episode, but I just kind of wanted to start off with a heads up, second half, the activity is still going. So as they introduce new aspects of religion, they have the kids continue to build their religion as they work through it.
Yeah, exactly. If you didn't listen to last week and you jumped in, you're going to be like, what the hell are they talking? That's why. It's a continuation. Okay, so the first part, it starts out, so again, it's called Special Story Time, and they're talking about various religious texts and books that matter to different religions. So I think it's, again, one of those things you have to keep in mind that this is written for kids 8 to 12. That's a pretty young kid. So this is really high level stuff and very kid appropriate intros for each of these things, right? So keep that in mind. They're the Amazon reviews of this was not enough information. Well, this is not what it was. It was, it's the ideas. If you want to learn more about each one, by all means, enjoy that rabbit hole.
Exactly. Rabbit hole yourself till your heart's content.
Yeah, totally.
I like that section though. It was a good intro.
Well, yeah. And again, we've talked about this through this whole series. They bring up this idea that there are lots and lots of options, and then they give a few examples. In this case, the examples they give the Christian Bible, and they specifically define it that way. And then they talk about the Old and the New Testament. They mention the Quran, the Book of Mormon, the Principia Discordia, which is random. And I'm going to butcher this, but the Bhagavad Gita. I'm super butchering it. Do you know how to say it better?
No. Well, the second word starts with a G. So Bhagavad Gita, I don't know, but I think it says that it's often just referred to as the Gita. So we can,
Yeah.
we can pretend like we're in the know and just call it the Gita.
Yeah. It's one of those things, like, I 100% know I've studied it. And it's just like everything else in my life. When it's a word I don't know, like, I should have gone and listened to someone pronounce it on some video and then put my little, like, thing next to it. That's what I do almost every time I get stuck with something. But I forgot to do that with these notes, so I'm sorry.
You have a
Yeah,
good
so
excuse. You just got back from like a month of travel. So we're glad you're here today. That's like,
that's it.
you're,
Last
you're up late.
night, like, our flight was delayed because of course it was. Like, and then I couldn't get in. We live in the city in like a big complex, and I realized I forgot my house keys with my fob, which normally isn't a huge deal, except my husband is currently in France. And so we were stuck outside with all of our suitcases. And I tried calling myself, like, through the buzzer, the call box, to buzz myself
buzz
in,
yourself
and it
in.
didn't work. The thing
Oh.
wasn't working. And so we're like just standing out there at 11 o'clock at night. Like, I really hope someone has to walk their dog or something. And because we're in the heart of the city, people don't usually let people in. But there was someone that I did know who recognized us, who finally came along and was like, "Oh, hey, are you guys trying to get?" Yeah. And then I like promptly knocked over one of the suitcases. I mean, it was a hot mess. It was so, and I made it today. I've made it for recording, so we're here. At least.
Exactly. So your notes are sufficient given the week that you've had, right? And the busyness that's there.
Oh,
So then we go into religions from around the world, which is the next section. It starts on 47. At least in my phone version of Kindle, it's 47. And so Amanda's notes are so good. She like broke down each religion that's discussed and put a little note. And I wrote page 48 to 58, review of various religions. I think sometimes by the end of the book, I'm like over the book, like by the end of it, I'm like, this is what we've been doing. It's more of the same. You know what I mean? Like I got it.
It's for the people who aren't listening. All right. So Megan's right. I did try to pull out one interesting like tidbit or fact for each one that they mentioned. So the first religion they brought up is Islam, and they point out that there are strict rules around drawing their leader, who in this case is Muhammad. And I think a lot of people don't realize that because, especially in the United States, we're kind of like overwhelmed with Christianity, and there's lots of pictures of like a white Jesus, and like you wouldn't be doing that even. I mean, you shouldn't be doing a white Jesus anyway. That's a whole other story, but you wouldn't be doing that in Islam. Then the next one on page 49 is Hinduism. And it said, quote, most Hindus believe in reincarnation, which means every living person or animal is reborn after death as a different thing. And so it's kind of one of those things that might be new to some people.
When my parents were newly married, they lived in an apartment in New York City. And as part of their maintenance from the apartment building, somebody would come spray for vermin and whatnot, because it's New York City. But there were a bunch of people in their building who practiced Hinduism, and they wouldn't allow the people to come in and spray because the cockroaches might be like their grandma or something like that. And so my mom's like, it was so pointless. She's like, you can't just spray one apartment and be surrounded by apartments that have been sprayed.
Yeah, that's so true.
And they ended up moving because of the cockroach situation. It was that bad. So.
Oh, no. Once you have cockroaches in a building, like they're in the entire building. Like that is yeah, that's true. That's unfortunate. Okay, so then on page 50, you've got Buddhism. And they all point out that many also believe in reincarnation. The next one is, now, how do you pronounce it? Do you pronounce it Judaism or Judaism? Judaism. Okay. So 51, Judaism. It says, quote, they call themselves the chosen people. And it also makes a point to say that they have the Torah, which actually makes up the first 5 books of the Old Testament in Christianity. I have a lot of thoughts, but that's not the purpose of this book club. So I'm going to leave it at that.
I feel like calling yourself the chosen people is like fairly ballsy, I feel like.
I mean, I can't help but think that if it was any religion practiced predominantly by anyone not white, that Americans especially would have a real issue with a group of brown people walking around calling themselves the chosen people. But that's what it is.
I'm looking it up really quick, though. Okay, hold on. Do Jews call themselves the chosen people, or is that a name given to them? Because I always thought that was Let's see. Hold on.
Well, I pulled it out only because I had just in the last week, there was something else that came across at a museum or something that talked about how they called themselves the chosen people and their book calls them the chosen people. And I was like, okay, then. And then it was in here and I was like, yeah.
Yeah, no, so it is Jewish. Okay. And we are Jewish. And I know that phrase, but still. So it says it's often misunderstood or misrepresented by outsiders. Okay. The concept of
I'm
being
not really sure how you're supposed to take that a different way, but okay.
that dress looks hideous on you, but I didn't mean it that way.
I'm the superior person in this podcast, but don't take it to mean that.
Oh, that's one of the bullet points, right? So it says the concept of being quote unquote chosen comes from the Hebrew Bible, particularly in books like Deuteronomy, where God chooses the Israelites to uphold the covenant and follow a set of laws, meaning in the Torah. Then it goes on to say important. Chosen doesn't mean superior. It means chosen for a specific responsibility to live ethically, follow the commandments, and be a moral example to the world. This isn't my opinion. I'm just reading you what came up. And so I'm not looking at you because I'm reading off my screen, but I can feel your eyes.
Wondering if you told your children that one of them was chosen, morally responsible and upstanding child in your family, if your other two children would feel like they were just as loved and respected. I'm just wondering.
Oh, all right. Let me see. And then the last bullet says many Jewish thinkers emphasize that being chosen is less about privilege and more about obligation and accountability. Just telling you what it says on the internet.
And the internet can say that. I would argue that again, privilege is privilege.
Yeah.
No matter how you want to dress that up and say, well, I sacrificed too. Like, privilege. Like, I sacrificed too. Okay. Page 52 has Pastafarianism. And this was started in 2005. And it says, quote, a spaghetti monster god was created to make a point about not teaching religious ideas in science classes. And it's still going and accumulating followers. So there you go, like Pastafarianism. Yeah, I'm quite fond of spaghetti. The next one is Jainism, I believe is how you pronounce it. I had heard of this one. It's not terribly common, but these are the folks that walk. When they walk, they sweep the ground in front of them so that they don't accidentally kill any little bugs as they walk. So if you've traveled in Asia or gone to temples or things like that, you might have seen that. Page 54 has Satanism. And this was a good one for me. I didn't know that much about this. I went to a Catholic university. I'm not Catholic, but I happened to end up at a Catholic university. I learned about a lot of these different religions because I worked at an interfaith program that was supposed to help like bridge differences and all of these kinds of things. But they were not covering Satanism at my Catholic university, which is probably not a huge surprise for anyone. So it says Satanism is based on the character of Satan, but that character is seen as a symbol for knowledge or truth. Interesting.
Okay, so what was in the book got me curious, which is a good thing. That's the whole point of the book, right? Is to spark curiosity and discussion and all that kind of stuff. And we started talking about the fact that you could totally turn these books into a jumping off point to build a semester class if you wanted to. Mm-hmm. So then I really wanted to know what the other rules of Satanism are, because it says something about the 11 rules of the earth. Okay. I feel like Satanism it's kind of like how Al Gore called climate change global warming at first. And now every time we get a big snowstorm, the morons on Fox News are like, global warming, huh? It's cold outside. I kind of feel like Satanism is almost like a bad name for this because listen, okay, here's the rules. Do not give opinions or advice unless you're asked. Okay, right? Uh-huh. Do not tell your troubles to others unless you are sure they want to hear them. Okay.
Thank you.
When in another's lair, show them respect or else do not go there. Okay. If a guest, okay, this one's weird. If a guest in your lair annoys you, treat them cruelly and without mercy. Okay, that one made pause a little.
Yeah, I thought that one was hilarious. And it's like, yeah, right. No turn the other cheek BS here.
Do not make sexual advances unless you are given the mating signal. Hello, consent.
Yeah,
I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do not take that which does not belong to you unless it is a burden to the other person and they cry out to be relieved. Like it. Acknowledge the power of magic if you have employed it successfully to obtain your desires. If you deny the power of magic after having called upon it with success, you will lose all that you have obtained. Okay, fine. That's, no harm.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. Okay, fine. Do not complain about anything to which you need not subject yourself. Hello? I thought that one was great. Do not harm little children. I'm all about sex offenders being like mercilessly attacked in prison, so I'm good about that. Do not kill non-human animals unless you are attacked or for your food. Love it. When walking in open territory, bother no one. If someone bothers you, ask them to stop. If they do not stop, destroy them. Okay, so like the destroy them part, like it gets a little severe in some cases. But generally speaking, I feel like Satanism has such a dark tone to it. And most of it isn't dark. Most of it is just kindness and respect.
Yeah, exactly. Most people think Satanism is like satanic worship and a cult. It's not, right? It's like, it's kind of the opposite. It's all about like this idea of like super respectful and boundaries. And
I liked it.
kind of stuff. Yeah.
Plus, I like the fact that the Satanists are going now. Did you see that one video where they went before a school board and it was like, oh, if the public school system is allowing Bible study now, then that means that you've now opened the door. You've set a precedent, right? So now we'd like to start a satanic club that's an after school club. And I was like, good for you. Like, good for you.
Yep. Yeah, they're really pushing back. Okay, so after that one, we have, realism. I don't know for sure how to pronounce it, but it's one of the most popular UFO religions. So there's that. And then this section goes on to say other UFO religions are Scientology and Heaven's Gate. So,
I didn't know Scientology was a UFO religion. That was new to me.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. And then I was like, oh, actually, I mean, there's a whole lot of like space stuff around Scientology. So I should have put that together. And then on page 57, there's the Church of the Subgenius, which this was an interesting one. The book describes it as a silly religion that makes fun of other religions. It goes on to say it's like Scientology and Christianity with UFO teachings and TV ads. And there's like a 1950s used car salesman who's their main prophet. So that's pretty fun. His name's Bob.
I kind of want to check out one of those meetings. That sounds fun.
Right? Like, well, okay. And then the last one that it goes over, the Baha'i faith. So it says they believe in one God that created everything and that each different religion comes from that God. And I found this one an interesting idea. And I will say that in that Catholic university that I went to when I was doing all of my general religious studies and interfaith things, I studied this. I went to one of their like churches. They have beautiful temples, like really modern, beautiful temples that you can go check out and beautiful gardens. And for anyone who wants to go the step further with their kids and actually go see some of those things. And I remember back then when I was like, that's actually like a pretty interesting idea. And at the time I still considered myself more of a Christian, like definitely a questioning Christian. But I was very promptly told by my Christian mentors how wrong and very, very bad it was, because our God, their God, would not have invented all of these other religions and be accepting of them. Like, that was just not. So, no.
Can't be.
Inclusion? What?
Not okay.
Yeah. And so then this chapter wraps up with some more of this project that we were talking about. And so you are supposed to name your new religion and create a symbol. And that for me was interesting because I was like, that is so true. I had never really thought about the fact that religions, again, I'm pretty far removed from doing the church thing in any way, like religion in general in any way, shape, or form. But like, oh yeah, there's a symbol and you see the symbol and you know what we're talking about, right? So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you've even got it. I have the Kindle book, but I'm assuming it's the same in the regular book, like the page numbers at the bottom. There's like different things, like you've got like the hands from the Sistine Chapel on some of the bottoms of the pages. There's like the Star of David.
I did not put them together. I did not put that together because I was like, star, a moon. Like, I like space.
Good look. Yes. The page numbers are all kind of surrounded by little religious symbols. And I thought it was just kind of like a nice little touch. I liked it.
Really missed it. There you go.
Oh my goodness. All right, so we have more to discuss book-wise today, but we wanted to tell you something that we have been working our tushes off and we are super excited about. We have launched some courses online and we will link them in the show notes below. We have 2 that are live. One will be live in like a week-ish, a week and a half, 2 weeks. It's coming, right? It's the finishing touches. It's happening. But yeah, we're getting there. So we've got a Homeschool 101 course for anybody who's brand new to homeschooling. If you have a friend who's new to homeschooling who is like, I don't even know where to start, they can start here. It's simple, it's straightforward, it's not confusing. There's a workbook where they can do hands-on activities that really helps them narrow their focus, clear away the noise, and get started homeschooling more confidently. I mean, when we started homeschooling, it was piecing together information from blogs and Facebook groups and not even podcasts. I don't even think podcasts were a thing. They were probably like just starting when I started homeschooling. But even still, you'd have to listen to like 20 hours of podcasts to get what we give in this one course that you could complete in a handful of hours. So, and you wouldn't have the workbook and all that kind of stuff that gets really hands-on and really specific to you in those things. So we've got 2 courses that are live at this exact moment. There's the Homeschool 101 called the No Panic Bootcamp. Come, stop panicking. We've got you. It's all sorted. Then we've got Preschool and Kindergarten Reimagined, which is everything you need to homeschool a kiddo that's ages 6 or under. The one that is coming out next is Amanda's Fab Curriculum course.
I'm sweating over here. Like, that's a lot to live up to. I mean, it's got a lot in it. We put a lot of time into it, but like,
they're very robust. They're concise, so that doesn't take you a million years to go through. So they're concise, but there's a lot of information in them.
Yeah.
We were joking last week that when we finished them and we recorded them and we had the handbook done and we had the slides done and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, we built this freaking awesome. It is an impressive course, if I do say so myself, the ones that are already out there. And the curriculum one is almost done. It's impressive so far. I'm sure it'll just continue to get better as we kind of tweak it and put the finishing touches on it. But yeah, we will link them all down below. There's more courses coming. We have a whole list of courses that we'd like to build that will be really hands-on ways to get into homeschooling, make it clear away the clutter, clear away the noise, give you a little boost of confidence. This is huge. This is your kid's education. So piecing together information from Facebook groups is lovely. But I mean, I can't tell you how many times that I see people give information that kind of makes me go, huh. And then I click on their name to see what else they've done in that same group. And they've been homeschooling for like 3 weeks, right? And I'm like, I love that you're helping and that you're enthusiastic and that you're part of the community. That's all awesome. But I would like to know who I'm getting advice from. And if you've been at this for 3 weeks, like, I would prefer to take someone else's advice. I'm so sorry. I want to know somebody who's seen it through the years, whose kids have gone to college, whose kids have, accelerated it, this, that, and the other thing, where it's like the proof is in the pudding. So that's what this offers, which is pretty darn cool. So check the show notes. We've got a link for you. Come. We'll be happy to support you on your homeschool journey. And again, if you're at the park for a homeschool day and there's some new mom there who's like, I don't know, send them the link. We would love it. And it will truly help them get where they need to be faster and without all the stress and all the panic. So it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, no, totally. And that's it. Like, I love online courses. We've talked about this before. If you follow the podcast, like, I love to like always be learning. And I think online courses are great. But I also think that way too many online courses are not worth whatever you end up paying for them. Like, it is shocking how much crap is out there. So I was pretty like, if we're going to do this, it's got to be good. And there needs to be a handout. I want something at the end that I can hold and touch, not just like a page of notes in a random notebook that I'm going to put somewhere and then I'm never going to be able to find it again and be like, but I took that one course and it had really good ideas. And like, I know I have notes somewhere. No, this is not one of those.
What's happened to that? Okay, so we moved last year and you have no idea how many of those notes I found on legal ad. They were in leather folio things that I used to have from my corporate days. Yeah. So okay. I feel it was a little bit of a targeted comment, but the truth landed where it needed to be. So, okay, fine. And the workbooks for our class, I mean, some of them are like 20, 30 pages long. They're black and white, so don't stress about your printer ink, but you can print them out. I mean, they're hefty workbooks with all sorts of activities and stuff in there, articles. There's sources at the back if you want to dig into different articles and continue going with some of the stuff we mentioned in there. It's all in there. So it's hefty, but it won't take you a college semester to get through, right? You can, in a handful of hours, get this like super condensed download of information that's like, here's exactly what you need to proceed. So it's all good stuff.
Yeah, that's it. If you have an afternoon free on the weekend, you could totally bomb through it, or you could do a module a day for a week and and like just squeeze it in. It would like either way would be totally fine to do any of the courses that we're making because as much as we want it to include a ton of stuff, like we are also moms with a ton of stuff happening. No one here is like, well, I have a mixed amounts of free time. I hope this takes forever.
Yeah. Yeah, that would not be okay.
Yes. All right. So moving on. We are almost done with our book. The last couple of units. So this chapter is called Let's Play Follow the Prophet. All right. So on page 62, I pulled out a quote. It says, all religions started just how yours did, with an idea someone loved, a set of rules on how to love it, and a story to help them teach and lead others. And again, this plays off this idea that throughout the whole book, your kiddo or whoever is doing it has been creating their own religion and figuring out what that looks like and all the pieces and parts. And I just really like the fact that this is driving home this idea that like this is how all religions started. Someone claimed that they heard the voice of the pasta god, or they heard the voice, like whatever it was, or whoever their prophet was, right? And now they're sharing it with people. And so just this, it's the same as what your student or your kiddo has been doing. It goes on to say on page 63, wow, we're honored someone like you is even reading this book. You're so holy and wonderful. Every word from your lips is like hearing the voice of God. Your writings will be followed to the letter for all of eternity. No one can say you're wrong because you hear the direct voice of God and speak for it. And I was like, man, this is such a good thought exercise because I doubt, as much as we would joke about it, I know my kiddo would 100% joke about it. I doubt any kid would really be like, yeah, everyone has to listen to me because I created a new religion, right? Like they're going to realize how silly that is. But then, like, why do so many others follow this path as founders and followers, right? Like, I was like, it's a great discussion topic.
Yeah. And then it kind of leads into the idea of cults and cult-like thinking, which might be an answer to your hypothetical question that you just asked. So it says on 64, before it was a massive religion, Christianity and every other religion that was or ever will be started as a cult. And so in my mind, when I first read that and kind of stopped right there, I was like, was a cult, right? And again, these books were written before the supreme takeover of Christian nationalism in our country. Like, it's always been there as an undercurrent, but now it's like out in the open, right? This heightened awareness. So I'm like, I feel like it kind of is a cult. How is it not a cult now? So it says,
I mean, let's be fair. Judaism is a cult right now too. Like with all the shit happening over there and like, I mean, but the definition of a cult is that it has to be small. Right. Like if you go and look it up. So that's like the biggest difference. And like, I think really, because yeah, like, I mean, in large part, every religion out there fits the definition. Like if you just Google, like define cult, almost every religion fits that definition with the exception of the fact that they're not small anymore.
Well, so it's interesting because I looked up information. So there's this guy, Stephen Hassan, who wrote a book called Combating Cult Mind Control. And a lot of the notes that I looked up from him didn't talk about size as being a huge factor. So it did talk about the key characteristics of a cult. And I'm like, a lot of them fit, even though size might not be relevant. So key characteristics of a cult: authoritarian leadership, being a single leader or a small group that holds absolute power. The leader is seen as infallible or divinely inspired. Questioning leadership is discouraged or punished. Then it says exclusive or elitist beliefs, claims to possess the sole truth or the only path to salvation and enlightenment, often views outsiders as enemies, ignorant, or evil. Then it goes on to manipulative and controlling behavior.
Religion, right? I mean, right? Every religion.
So I'm like, to me, size is irrelevant because...
Well, yes, but Oxford doesn't agree with you. So just because he doesn't agree with you I mean, I love this book. I'm sure it's a good book. And I do think that we have a whole lot of cult mindless following happening in a lot of different ways, even within Christianity. And you've got the cult of Trump, and you've got the cult of, the conservative Christian. Like, there's just there's so much, right? And if you leave Christianity, it goes beyond that. And like all of its different groups, right? You've got the extremists, and they have very clear cults within like these groups, these kind of subgroups. So yeah, I mean, it's messy.
It's another rabbit hole. So you can do a whole semester on cults.
You can do a 4-year degree on it, man. Like, I'm gonna give you a college degree on cults. Like, I'm sure there are programs out there like that.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So page 65 defines proselytize and gives examples. So that's pretty interesting. We've talked about that before. Like, there's not much getting around that in a lot of religions. And then page 67, I pulled out a quote. It says, pretty soon you can start holding playground meetings and spreading the faith you made up yourself as far and wide as it can go, as long as it's safe and appropriate for school. And I just had a good laugh about that. Can you imagine? Like how many people would get their panties in a bunch about that, right? Like,
exactly.
Like, you're on the playground, like any park or whatever, and you start like trying to convert people to your Pastafarianism or whatever you've actually picked. And like, yeah, there are so many people who would be like so beyond themselves.
Very true. Then we have our next section, which is called Please Religion Responsibly. I love the headers in this book. I feel like they're even a step above what we've had in some of the other books. On 69, it says, when we stop to think about the power religion still has in our society today, we can't help but notice how many people have suffered thanks to extremist followers. An extremist follower is someone who will hurt people or themselves in order to follow the holy book of their religion to the letter. Most of them have been brainwashed to believe they have to. And I mean, I would go on to say that it's not even that many extremists are not following their book to the letter. They're following the game of telephone variation. I mean, like, the first thing that comes to my mind are the people who flew the planes into the towers of the World Trade Center. Those are people who hurt themselves and were willing to die because they were promised 49 virgins or whatever in the afterlife and all this kind of stuff. But that's not what their holy book tells them to do. So, so yes and no, right? But the thought still applies, even though there's just like that little tweak, that little like footnote in my mind that this is not always the case. I mean, we see like self-immolation and stuff like that. And typically those people are very lost in a lot of ways in life.
Although these days the middle's pretty fucked up too.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, where it says an extremist follower is someone who will hurt people, right? And so, yeah, I mean, right now in the US, we have that with, it was just Pride Month. How many people were out there with their signs about abomination and hellfire and all kinds of stuff, right? That is hurting other people. And so that's, okay, moving on. I can't.
That's it. This is we could talk about that kind of stuff all day long. But here we go. Page 70. Yeah, we both have the same note on this one. It just talks about how like pretty much all religions have some very bad skeletons in their closet, right? And we've talked about that before. I think it was in some of these other books, but just in general on the podcast and stuff like that. The reality is lots of bad things have been done in the name of religion throughout time. They will continue to be done in the name of religion throughout time.
True story.
And pretending otherwise is really disingenuous.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, an interesting chance for another rabbit hole if you want. And if not, you can just be like we said, religions, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, for the sake of a little bit of balance, I don't know how well it balances out millions of people time throughout history, but sure. It says Isaac Newton was a Christian scientist and that his belief system impacted his science and mathematic discoveries. It talks about the art that we get from religion over the years, the sealing of the Sistine Chapel, et cetera, the invention of the printing press, which P.S. we have a unit study about the history of books, and it talks about the invention of the printing press in there, along with a ton of other really cool book stuff, including like bookbinding and all sorts of other stuff. So anyway, but it talks about the fact that the printing press was invented and the first thing they did was print the Christian Bible. So they're trying to kind of counterbalance the, hey, millions of people have been killed over the years due to their religious beliefs and persecution, but we got, so, it's there.
Yeah.
Take it for what you will.
That's it. I mean, it's, a lot of good or attempt at good has been done in the name of religion as well. So that could be another rabbit hole you could go down if that's something you're interested in your family. And yeah, a great progressive way to look at some things that you probably grew up being told and thinking, and really dissecting that and doing your best to do some decolonization work in your own homes. Okay, so on page 72, there is this bit that I really generally disagree with. And if you're listening, I want to give you a heads up if you're using these books with your kiddos so that you can at least know and address it however you would like. So the quote says, "You should create a religion of brightness, a religion about love that actually is about love and not about money, power, control, or death. With less of that and more love, just imagine what a world it would be." And now, on the one hand, your kiddo has been creating a pretend religion throughout the book, right? So it applies there. But if you have listened to us at all, I'm pro making the world a brighter, kinder, more empathetic place. And I really don't agree that anyone should be making new religions. Nor do I agree that we need religion to accomplish these things, because from the outside looking in, I'm not seeing really any religion currently doing a particularly good job of promoting these things in general. And the way that it's positioned in the book, not directly with the activity, kind of makes it seem like there's like a push for religion. And I don't think that's what they meant to do, but just the way that it's in there and the time that it's in there, like it kind of feels that way. So I just want to give you a heads up that that's there, and it's worth talking about to make sure that your kiddo understands the intent, and not like you should start a religion full of brightness and love. Like, not necessary. Just be a good person.
I see what you're saying there, though. I took it as relating to the activity in the book, but you're right. It's not, there's no lines after it. It's not tied to an instruction related to the activity. So yeah, I could totally see where a kiddo especially might come away from this being like, this is now my task in life, is to solve the world's problems with a new religion.
Yeah. Because kids are amazing, but kids are also kids. So just be aware that that's going to come up on page 72. And then that brings us to the conclusion. So we're almost done. In the conclusion, towards the very end, like the very last line says on page 76, they say, "We just hope your religion is one that says you can have ice cream for breakfast." And again, I think I brought this up before. I do not get this obsession with ice cream for breakfast. I'm like, if you are giving your kid typical American breakfast cereal, give him ice cream for breakfast. Like, at least they'll get more dairy and possibly more protein out of. Apparently, his parents really did not let him have ice cream very often. And it was only after, yeah, exactly, only after dinner or something. Because like, this ice cream for breakfast really matters to him. I don't know.
Oh my goodness. All right. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. We've covered it all. Before we wrap up, we wanted to let you know about our next book club selection. So we still have a few more weeks of book club on Thursday episodes, before we transition over to Patreon and Zoom for book club. We are going to be continuing along with the same theme of exploring religion from a secular perspective, really kind of in the name of testing out resources that we can use in our homeschool life. And that way you don't have to go out and buy a bunch of books and test them all. And we're like, yes, these are good resources. As Amanda said, like on page 72, here's something you might want to raise a red flag over, right? It's kind of, you've got some of the groundwork done for you. on some of these resources. So the next series we're going to be reading are the Annabelle and Aiden books. And we're going to be starting out, some of them are really, really short. So we're going to be starting out with 2 books next week, which is Oh, the Things We Believed and Oh My Gods. And so you can kind of see a repeat theme of what we've just talked about here, where it's going to explore gods. But it'll be interesting to see how they do it, how they explain it to kids, if there's any activities, things like that. These will be new for us. So maybe we'll have a preference between the series options. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll tell you need them all. Who knows? We don't get anything if you buy all of them. So we will definitely give you an honest impression. But yeah, so get ready for next week. We'll have some new books coming up. But in the meantime, happy homeschooling.
Yeah, have a great one.